Hey guys, what's up? Sando here, and today I'll be testing quite an interesting pair of headphones by the name of HarmonicDyne Zeus. It goes for 350 bucks, but after listening to them for a week and then running a full set of measurements, I strongly believe we have a new contender for some of the best headphones under 400 bucks. So let's get started. As far as build quality goes, there is very little plastic on top of the headband, and the rest is made out of stainless steel, walnut wood, eco leather and velour. At 380 grams, Zeus is slightly on the heavier side of things, and while holding it, it gives an impression of a well-made and well-engineered product. I personally like their headband and adjusting mechanism. It looks sleek, it has a slim profile. It reminds me a little about Sennheiser HD 800. The ear cup holders are made out of stainless steel, but those are filled with some kind of foam just to keep the weight down as much as possible. Its ear cups were carved from walnut wood, it's durable, sturdy and has good acoustic properties. Build quality wise, it will put to shame most headphones in the same price bracket, and I don't think there is much to complain about these in here. Another big surprise was the cable itself. It's thick, with a strong and durable outer jacket, with sturdy metal connectors, and of course the conductors themselves are of the highest quality. It really looks like a custom cable you would buy separately. HarmonicDyne didn't spare a dime on the cable conductors. High purity OCC copper was used in here, and I don't see the point of using third-party cables with this one. As for the tech inside them, we are dealing here with a 50mm dynamic driver that is beryllium coated, making the driver lighter, faster, much stiffer, improving its rigidity and lowering the total harmonic distortion in the process. Beryllium is not new in the audio realm. Focal is using them in their headphones and loudspeakers for a while. There are several IEMs using it, and there are plenty of loudspeaker manufacturers that are using this particular material. Zeus has an impedance of 64 ohms and a sensitivity of 100 dB per 1 mW of power, so they should work pretty well with portable devices, but will surely sound the best out of a dedicated headphone amplifier, be it portable or not. Okay guys, it's time to hit some eardrums. As for the sound performance, if you're wondering yourself how I would describe them with just a few words, that would be speedy, that would be punchy, that would be engaging, hard slamming, airy sounding, well spread around the listener, with a very strong bass delivery and with an excellent upper treble that is improving their detail retrieval. So it's quite hard associating them with other headphone brands, but I do think there is plenty of that focal cleanness in here, but it's a little bit more lit up top, so there is more treble presence. There is plenty of bass to please a bass addict, and mid-range, although is quite linear sounding, I think it's not sloppy at all. But most importantly, it is never thin sounding, never soulless, boring or bright sounding. That would be a critical mistake in a headphone like this. The biggest advantages of those beryllium drivers were very obvious from the start. So those are fast moving drivers, that is, I'm pretty sure about that. There is plenty of speed and impact, slam is quite impressive, and it is mimicking the sound of a well-driven planar driver. The mid-bass felt really powerful, very bold, very present, but also undistorted, with plenty of layering around it. A huge standout of this headphone was actually the detailed retrieval and transparency that they were capable of. It's almost unbelievable the amount of micro detail that is coming out of these drivers. Zeus is a technical sounding headphone, it's almost robotic at times. Yet there is a bit of naturalness and warmth, not a whole lot of it, but enough to satisfy a jazz and blues addict like myself. I will briefly touch the subject of the sensitivity and of how much power is actually needed to drive these to very loud levels. Since they sounded as loud as a pair of Kennerton Magni and Olo S4X, their sensitivity of 100 dB per 1 mW of power that is being mentioned in the user manual is actually very accurate. So this sounded decent out of a smartphone and out of a laptop, but of course far from excellent, and much better out of dedicated audio devices. Xduo XP2 Pro and FiO Q3 had simply enough juice to drive this to ear deafening levels, and the same can be said about desktop headphone amplifiers. Even that tiny topping A50S was unleashing their maximum potential with plenty of headroom left on top. Portable dongles like AudioQuest Dragonfly, FiO BTR5, Shanling UP4, Healy DAC Beam shouldn't have issues driving these to very loud levels. And the same can be said about mid-tiered portable DAPs that shouldn't have issues as well. With all that said, the best pairing was with FluxLab Acoustics FA10 and also with Barson Conductor 3X Performance, followed by two more linear sounding amplifiers like a Benchmark HPA4 and SMSL SP200. Both the Flux and the Barson were improving the mid-range performance quite a lot and were widening their soundstage size, somehow taking care of the biggest flaws of this headphone. All these four units offered a better control of the drivers, even better dynamics, a faster pace, with the highest engagement factor. But if you are on a tight budget, topping E30 and L30 would pair very well with them, and a slightly better combo was SMSL SU9 and SH9 that offered an audible improvement. As for Transient Response, after listening to Chocolate Chip Trip by Tool and to several tracks of Infected Mushroom, it was very clear to me that I'm dealing with a monster Transient Response, and by that I mean a headphone that can keep up with the most demanding tracks and also deliver a thunder-like bass performance. So when I'm listening to music and when I'm liking what I'm hearing, my body will always send me clear signs. For me, it all starts with light toe taps, then with headbangs, but if my hands are somewhat in the air, then it's clear that the Transient Response is simply very, very good. Zeus works with faster paced music simply because they are pretty good when it comes to things like speed and acceleration. They worked well with mellower and with slower music as well, but I think their weight is more about delivering a high engagement factor. A bigger surface area of 50 mm and the stiffness of beryllium improved the bass heft and the slam that followed. And no matter the songs that I was playing, these two thoughts always carried over to other tracks. In terms of detailed retrieval, I will just briefly say that I find them more detailed compared to Olo S4X reference, more detailed than Erzetici Mania, and about on the same level with Kenerton Magni. Sennheiser HD 650 and lower tiered headphones like Mezio 99 Classics didn't stand a chance. Those simply sounded smoother, muddier, and simply wiped clean a layer of information from existence. If detailed retrieval is important to you and you want the most transparent sound for your money, I do think you have two options right now. The Zeus and any of the lower tiered planar magnetic headphones of HiFiMan. I was thinking about their clean sounding nature and came to the conclusion that a neutral frequency response with a slight treble boost always leads to a sensation of a breathable sound, and since I just described the sound of Zeus, they always appear as clean and transparent sounding to me. As for Soundstage, being an open back headphone by definition, as you can clearly see, the sounds are not happening inside my head, but are flowing outside it. I feel it well layered. I think it knows how to place all those notes in the scenery precisely, creating a believable image and depth information. With all that said, the soundstage part is probably the biggest downside of this headphone. And although excessive ringing just behind the driver moves outside of the ear cups, creating a breathable sound, Zeus isn't entirely a very open sounding headphone and reminds me quite a lot about semi-open headphones like Olo S4X reference. Soundstage is not particularly wide and it isn't thrown too far away from the listener, so expect simply a cozier sound, like you just switched places with someone in front of you in the auditorium. It's only by a hair wider compared to Odyssey LCD1, Sennheiser HD 6XX family of headphones, and Olo S4X also felt tinier and smaller when it comes to scale. Moving on to the frequency response, the sub-bass is slightly rolled off, it's slightly recessed, but not by much. That wasn't that worrisome to me. So I've heard plenty of 30 Hz notes with my electronica tracks, but not as many 20 Hz notes. However, from 30 Hz notes and upper than that, it becomes much more linear, so much more powerful, much more defined. Bass notes were always super fast, punchy, engaging sounding, but also clean and undistorted sounded, so that is very important. Overall, I think it has a high quality type of bass, so quantity and quality wise there is plenty of it. Mid bass is by far the best part of this headphone, so it's a little bit elevated, that is correct, but it adds weight, it adds a little bit of warmth, it basically lifts my mood, and that is the sound that I like the most. It also has a strong mid-range performance. It starts quite strong, but it isn't elevated at all. I find it quite neutral sounding in terms of mid-range. Voices were rendered pretty nicely. There was that unmistakable pitch between male and female voices. But honestly, in terms of frequency response, I think mid-range performance is least impressive in here. Mostly because the upper mid-range sees a slope, so a roll-off, and that adds an effect of shoutiness, as if I'm listening to those sounds in that region through a pillow, so it's simply less intensive, less soul-grabbing somehow in here. When I switched to my older jazz recordings that are extremely rich in terms of mid-range section, it was clear to me that Zeus wasn't that soul-grabbing, there wasn't that meaty sound that I'm in love with my Odyssey and Kenaton headphones. It felt by a hair drier, but not to a point of calling them thin or lifeless, because Zeus are not like that at all. As for treble, there is a slope in the most sensitive part of our hearing, somewhere between 4 and 6 kHz, that will scare away any brightness, so that will never happen in my tunes. I can listen to Zeus all day long without any kind of listening fatigue, but immediately after that the treble simply plunges sky high and improved the perception of detail, retrieval and air in my tunes. Some of the best headphones on the market have a very similar tuning in terms of treble delivery, and I do think that HarmonicDyne did a really great job when it comes to tuning of these headphones. Apart from that, the upper treble is very good. It is detailed, defined and very fast. There is plenty of zing and bite in my tunes, but without triggering my brightness OCD. Mini DSP ears recorded some dry bar movement even past 20 kHz, so we are definitely talking about a good treble performance. I have also measured their performance using a mini DSP ear system, so everything from frequency response, total harmonic distortion, spectral decay, waterfall, spectrogram, you name it, everything you can find below. There is a link. I also compared them with the Olo S4X reference, which are costing pretty much the same. So definitely check the written review that I put below or somewhere around here. It's one click away. As for the conclusion, I never tried their Helios, but Zeus looks, feels and performs like a proper hi-fi headphone to me from any point of view. I had my doubts first, but after listening to them for a week and then running a full set of measurements, I simply changed my mind. Sure, it has some small drawbacks like a limited soundstage size and also some dips in the frequency response, but everything else performs at a very high level. Up until this point, I didn't experience the same level of performance at $360, and it wouldn't be fair without awarding them for that. They deserve a high praise, so gold award it is. Okay guys, my full in-depth review is waiting on my website. In case you want to support this channel, please subscribe to it, and as usual, listen to my music, be positive, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, bye bye.